It didn't feel important when I signed it. That's the part that still stays with me. Not the loss, not the consequences. The simplicity, the normalcy, the moment itself. It was a Thursday afternoon, quiet, ordinary, the kind of day you forget completely until something makes it permanent. I was sitting in a small office with beige walls and fluorescent lights that hummed softly overhead. Across from me sat a man in a gray suit, flipping through a stack of papers with the calm confidence of someone who had done this thousands of times. He wasn't nervous, he wasn't unsure, because to him, it wasn't personal, it was procedure. "This is just standard," he said, sliding the document toward me. Just standard. Those words removed the weight from everything that followed. I glanced down at the paper, lines of text, paragraphs I didn't fully read, numbers I didn't fully question, because nothing about it felt dangerous, nothing about it felt permanent, nothing about it felt like it would stay attached to me for more than a moment. "This simply confirms your agreement," he added. Agreement. Such a simple word, such a permanent one. I held the pen in my hand. It didn't feel heavy. It didn't feel like a decision. It felt like paperwork, routine, temporary, something people did every day, something people forgot immediately afterward. And in that moment, I believed the same thing everyone believes before they understand consequences. That signatures are just formalities, that they don't change your life, that they don't follow you. I signed. My name looked small on the page, ordinary, unremarkable. The man smiled politely and took the paper back. "That's all we need," he said. "That's all we need." Not that that's all this will cost you. Not that this will stay with you for more than a decade. Not that this single moment will define years of your future. Just, that's all we need. I walked out of that office and didn't think about it again. Because nothing had changed. My bank account looked the same, my credit looked the same, my life looked the same. That's how consequences work. They don't arrive immediately. They wait, quietly, patiently, until the moment you forget the decision ever existed. Months passed, then years. Life moved forward. Jobs changed, apartments changed, relationships changed. Everything evolved the way it naturally does, except one thing: the signature. It stayed, silent, invisible, waiting. I didn't see it, I didn't feel it, I didn't know it was still there. Not until the letter arrived. It came in a plain envelope, like every other piece of mail I'd ever received. No warning, no urgency, just my name. I opened it casually, expecting nothing important. Inside was a notice, formal, precise, unemotional. Outstanding balance, $46,218.93. My name listed clearly below it. Responsible party. I read it twice, then 3 times, trying to find the mistake, trying to find the explanation, trying to find the part where this wasn't real. But there wasn't one, because it was real. And the signature I had forgotten hadn't forgotten me. That was the moment I understood something no one explains when you sign your name. Signatures don't disappear. They don't fade. They don't forget. They stay. Attached. Permanent. Waiting for the moment they are needed. And when that moment comes, it doesn't matter how much time has passed. The system doesn't measure regret. It measures agreement. And 12 years earlier, I had agreed. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. Not because the number was small enough to ignore, but because it was too large to make sense. $46,218.93. That wasn't a reminder. That wasn't a warning. That was a consequence. And consequences don't appear without history. I sat at the kitchen table holding the letter, trying to trace the number backward through time, trying to connect it to something I recognized, something I remembered, something I could fix. But memory doesn't always protect you. Sometimes it abandons you. Because the moment that creates the consequence doesn't feel important when it happens. That's why it's easy to forget. Until it isn't. I flipped the page over, looking for details. There it was. The account number, the loan reference, and at the bottom, a date. 12 years earlier. My chest tightened slightly. Not panic, not yet, just awareness. Because I remembered now. Not clearly, not completely, but enough. It wasn't my loan, not directly. It belonged to someone else. Someone I trusted. Someone who needed help qualifying. Someone who couldn't get approved alone. And I had agreed to help. Not by giving money, but by giving something else. My name. At the time, it hadn't felt like ownership. It had felt like support. Temporary. Reversible. Safe. But support doesn't stay temporary when the system records it permanently. And permanent records don't adjust themselves when people disappear. I checked my credit report that afternoon. I hadn't expected to see anything unusual because nothing unusual had happened recently. But the report told a different story. The account was there, active, unpaid, attached to me. Not new, not recent, just waiting. The status read, delinquent. That word carried weight. Not emotional weight, financial weight, legal weight. The kind that affects everything without asking permission first. I scrolled further down. Late payments, accumulated interest, years of inactivity, years of silence, years of growing consequence. All connected to one moment I barely remembered. One signature. I called the number listed on the letter. A representative answered. Her voice calm, neutral, unconcerned. This account lists you as the responsible party, she explained. Responsible party. Not supporter, not reference. Responsible. I never made payments on this, I said. She didn't argue. She didn't challenge me. She just stated the only thing that mattered. You signed the agreement. Signed. Such a small action, such a permanent result. It didn't matter that I hadn't used the loan. It didn't matter that I hadn't benefited from it. It didn't matter that 12 years had passed. What mattered was the signature, the agreement, the legal connection. Because legal responsibility doesn't expire just because memory does. I asked the question I already knew the answer to. Why am I being contacted now? She paused briefly, then answered. The primary account holders stopped making payments. Stopped. Not recently, years earlier. But the system doesn't act immediately. It waits. It allows time. It allows opportunity. Until there's no one left to hold accountable except the name that remains. Mine. That was the moment I understood something I hadn't before. Responsibility doesn't belong to the person who promises. It belongs to the person who signs. And signatures don't disappear when circumstances change. They stay. Attached. Permanent. I ended the call and sat in silence. The house felt the same. The walls hadn't moved. The furniture hadn't changed. But something invisible had shifted. Control. Because control isn't just about what you own. It's about what owns you. And now something I had forgotten existed owned part of my future. Not emotionally, legally, financially, permanently. I hadn't made a decision recently. I hadn't agreed to anything new. But 12 years earlier, I had agreed to something that never stopped waiting. And now, it was collecting. The calls didn't start immediately. At first, it was just letters, formal, polite, controlled, each one reminding me of the same thing, the balance, the responsibility, the signature. I ignored the first few, not because I believed they would disappear, but because I didn't know what answering them would change. Some problems don't feel real until they interrupt your routine, until they force themselves into moments that used to belong to something else. The first call came on a Wednesday afternoon while I was at work. My phone buzzed quietly on my desk. Unknown number. I let it ring. It stopped, then rang again. Persistence. That's how systems operate. They don't rush, they repeat. Eventually, I answered. This is regarding an outstanding balance associated with your name. The same phrase, the same calm tone. No urgency, no anger, just certainty. Certainty that I would eventually respond, that I would eventually accept what had always been true. I stepped outside, away from my desk, away from the normalcy that no longer felt stable. I haven't made payments on that account, I said. The representative didn't hesitate. But you are listed as a responsible signer. Responsible signer. Not optional, not secondary. Responsible. That word removed every layer of distance I had tried to maintain, because responsibility doesn't require participation. It requires agreement. And agreement had already happened 12 years earlier. I checked my credit report again that night. The number had dropped. Not drastically, but enough to matter. Enough to affect future decisions, future opportunities, future stability. Credit isn't just a number. It's permission. Permission to move forward. Permission to access opportunities. Permission to build. And now that permission had been restricted. Not because of something I had done recently, but because of something I had done long ago. I called the person whose loan it had been. The number didn't connect. Disconnected. Unavailable. Gone. That's when I understood the final piece of truth. Responsibility doesn't follow people, it follows signatures, and the signature hadn't disappeared. I logged into the account portal for the first time. The balance sat there, still growing. Interest doesn't wait for fairness. Fees don't pause for regret. Time doesn't reverse itself for understanding. Everything moved forward, except resolution. I looked at the monthly payment amount. It wasn't impossible, but it wasn't small. It wasn't planned. It wasn't earned. It wasn't mine, but it was attached to me, legally. That was enough. The next morning, another call came, then another. Not aggressive, not threatening, just consistent. Systems don't need emotion. They operate on agreement, and agreement had already been given. I realized something then that no one explains when you sign. Signatures don't expire when relationships do. They don't adjust when circumstances change. They don't disappear when people disappear. They remain, permanent, binding, waiting. I could ignore the calls, ignore the letters, ignore the balance. But ignoring it wouldn't remove it. It would only allow it to grow. Consequences don't need attention to exist. They only need time. And time had already given this consequence 12 years to grow. I made the first payment that night, not because I believed it was fair, not because I believed it was right, because I understood it was real. The payment didn't bring relief, it brought confirmation. Confirmation that the responsibility was mine now, not emotionally, not morally, but legally. And legal responsibility doesn't negotiate with regret, it only recognizes agreement. And 12 years earlier, I had agreed. Making the first payment didn't fix the past. It didn't erase the 12 years. It didn't undo the moment I signed my name. It only acknowledged something I could no longer ignore. The responsibility was mine. Not because I had used the money, not because I had benefited from it, but because I had agreed to it. Legally, permanently. That was enough. The payments became part of my routine, monthly, predictable, quiet. They didn't announce themselves, they didn't remind me emotionally. They simply existed, like gravity, constant, unavoidable. Each payment reduced the balance, slowly, deliberately, but not quickly enough to erase the awareness of what it represented. Time lost, control lost, trust lost. Not in others, in assumptions, because assumptions are what makes signatures feel harmless. Assumptions are what make permanent agreements feel temporary. Assumptions are what make consequences feel distant, until they aren't. Months passed, then years. The balance shrank, not dramatically, but steadily. Every payment restored something small, not financially, psychologically, because control isn't about avoiding consequences, it's about facing them, managing them, reducing them until they no longer define your future. I stopped thinking about the person whose loan it had been, not because I had forgiven them, not because I blamed them completely, but because blame didn't change the balance. Blame didn't change the agreement. Blame didn't remove my signature. Only action could do that. Only time could do that. Only payment could do that. One afternoon, I checked the account again. The balance was lower than I had ever seen it. Not gone, but closer. Closer to ending. Closer to closure. I realized something then. The signature hadn't just cost me money, it had cost me certainty. Because certainty is what you lose when consequences arrive without warning. Certainty is what you lose when decisions you forgot return without permission. Certainty is what you lose when your past becomes your present again. Financial stability isn't just about earning money, it's about understanding responsibility, understanding permanence, understanding that systems don't operate on memory, they operate on records, and records don't forget. Years later, I made the final payment. It didn't feel dramatic, it didn't feel emotional, it felt quiet, complete, finished. I closed the account portal and sat there for a moment, not celebrating, not reflecting, just existing in a reality where the responsibility had ended, but the awareness hadn't. Because awareness doesn't disappear when consequences do. It stays, permanent, attached, just like the signature once was. If I could go back, I wouldn't sign it again. Not because helping someone was wrong, but because understanding responsibility matters more than trusting intention. Intentions don't appear in legal agreements, signatures do. And signatures carry weight long after intentions disappear. I still remember the moment clearly. The pen, the paper, the simplicity. How small it felt, how temporary it seemed, how permanent it became. Sometimes people believe life changes through major decisions, through dramatic moments, through obvious turning points. But sometimes life changes through something much smaller, something quieter, something as simple as writing your name. Because once your name is attached, the system doesn't forget. It doesn't adjust. It doesn't ask if you regret it. It only remembers one thing. You signed, and sometimes that's enough to change years of your future. Sometimes the smallest decisions carry the longest consequences. Would you sign again if you knew the outcome? Leave a comment, and don't forget like, share, and subscribe.